The most important battleground that we can have right now is the public schools. Every other thing is a distraction. There are a lot of people who are not going to want to hear this. The borders are a distraction. ESG is a distraction. Whatever crazy thing Biden is doing today is a distraction. Everything that is not about how to reclaim the public schools is a distraction. Target is a distraction. Budweiser is a distraction. It's not that it doesn't have any impact, because it does have impact, but sometimes you have to prioritize. And sometimes when you identify the root cause of the problem, which is the public schools, you have to say, okay, I don't like the border situation, but the public schools are more important. I don't like this ESG bullshit. The public schools are more important. I don't like what Target and Budweiser are doing. The public schools are more fucking important. Because this is where we lose the war. And I don't personally think the public schools are fixable. School choice is not going to fix the public schools. I have talked about this extensively before. Maybe it's time for a little review on that. We're not going to do that today. But school choice is not going to fix the public schools. I think that the only way that we can fix the public schools is by defunding them entirely. Privatize education. Eliminate the need for it. Allow parents to figure it out. Create pods. Create homeschool things. Get creative. I think there should be more investment in entrepreneurship around these issues. This is the number one thing we can work on. If by some chance any sort of person connected with venture capital or anything like that is watching right now, the number one thing that you can invest in is innovation to make homeschooling easier for parents. Think of creative ways to educate children outside of the public school paradigm. Because this is where we are losing, and this is where we are losing permanently. James Jones says, at OU over 40 years ago, one day I saw a display of white awareness, handbook for anti-racism training. Judith H. Katz was there at the time. Isn't that crazy? Because it's been around for a long time. Why are the public schools the most important things that we can look at right now? Because they control your kids. People think that the woke left is so invested in abortion and like demanding it up until birth, demanding it after birth, all this stuff. They think that they're like, I mean, I think Tim Pool has said this multiple times. Why don't we just let all these leftists abort all their kids? And then if we let the leftists abort all their kids, then they will eventually die out. Their ideology will die off, all those things. Well, that might make sense, except that the woke left controls the public schools. This is one of the first things they took over. Remember, they took over the universities. They took over the colleges of education. They trained the teachers. They sent the teachers into the public schools. They did this for 50 effing years until they achieved critical mass in the public schools, where now 90% of teachers, 90, over 90% are indoctrinated into this ideology, and they don't even know it. It is the only way they've ever been taught. They don't even know it. Does anyone watch the show The Handmaid's Tale? By the way, I love the book The Handmaid's Tale. The book is great, but the show is also pretty good, but the show is no longer following the book. The show's kind of going on its own now. And I think it's a great show. I think everyone should watch it. I might even have a new marathon of The Handmaid's Tale. I do it every once in a while. Great soundtrack. But the reason I bring this up is The Handmaid's Tale has been going for what, like 5 seasons? Something like that. And the first season was about the book, and then the subsequent seasons have all been separate from the book. So they're getting to the point in The Handmaid's Tale where when The Handmaid's Tale first started, The the Christian nationalists had just taken over the country and had created this new country of Gilead, okay? In Gilead, women are not allowed to learn to read. They are not allowed to read at all. If a woman is caught reading in the Handmaid's Tale Gilead, they lose a finger the first time, they lose an entire hand the next time, and you can imagine what happens after that. And so when they were transitioning society, of course, when they took over, women knew how to read. So they had to transition from this place where women know how to read to this new place where no women know how to read, okay? So they had to overcome the fact that there was obviously the population of women knew how to read, but guess what? Over the course of years, they started raising children in which the girls were never taught to read. And so when you start The Handmaid's Tale, the show, the daughter of the main character, the main character's name is June. She has a daughter. The daughter's like what, like 5 years old when they start the show. So the daughter hadn't yet learned how to read. Over the course of the show, the daughter, I think, is now like 16 or something like that, 15 or 16. It's been 10 years. They have now reached a point in that show where they have raised enough girls not knowing how to read, and they have never learned how to read. So you have the adult population of women that were taught to read before the takeover, but you have this whole new generation that never learned how to read. They've never known anything differently. Their entire lives have gone without reading. When you go your entire life with a certain reality, you quite literally cannot imagine a reality that is different than that reality. So now let's apply this back to real life. Because we're not in Gilead. Thankfully, I can read. Blessings. We have 50 effing years worth of teachers who have never known anything other than the woke ideology that they learned in the teacher education college. Like, take the example with Gilead and apply it to the teachers in the public school system. They know how to read, but they do not know any way to teach that does not involve the woke ideology because it is all they have ever been taught. And it's been going on for 50 years. It is an unsolvable problem. Exactly. This is the cave. This is Plato's cave. All the teachers are in the effing cave. They have never known a world outside of the cave. They can never even conceive of a world outside of the cave. This is the problem that we're facing. So, the reason that we need to focus on the schools is because the woke left, they don't need to have kids of their own, guys, because they're going to take yours. And they're going to take yours because they control the public schools and because they have installed generations of teachers that don't know how to teach any differently but the woke ideology that they were indoctrinated into in college when they didn't even know what was going on. And I'll give you one more. They literally called for this in the Communist Manifesto. They wrote about how the schools were the keys to taking over and also to abolishing the family, by the way, but that's another thing for another day. This was called for by Marx and Engels 150 years ago, and we are experiencing the ramifications of it today. You don't. How do non-leftists inhabit the teachers' colleges without being indoctrinated? You don't. They're gone. There is nothing that can be done. Nothing at all. The only thing that we can do is abolish public education in this country. That is it. We need to abolish state boards of education because they're the ones setting the teacher licensure standards. They're the ones requiring people to go to the colleges of education to get the teaching degrees. All of this needs to be abolished. That is the only solution. There's nothing else. And just to put like a timeline on it, this takes at a minimum 2 generations to fix. This problem will not be solved in any of our lifetimes. That's how bad it's gotten, guys. That is what happens when you focus on the symptoms of the problem rather than the root cause of the problem. When you focus on symptoms like Target and Budweiser and Dylan Mulvaney and mostly peaceful protests and books and libraries, you ignore the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem never goes away. The root cause of the problem just gets worse. And then if you ignore it successfully for years because you've been focused on the symptoms of the problem the whole time, eventually you get to a place where the problem is unfixable. And that's where we are with the public schools.